me out like that.
So we wish you well.
Thank you so much.
A beautiful trip. A beautiful trip.
We wish you a beautiful trip, but we'll probably mark it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My trip. I'm going to Minnesota. No, that's for you. Go away. My trip. Well, I am going on a trip. Can't exactly say it's vacation, but I know of a story where a doctor enters into the patient's room and the doctor says, "Don't be nervous, David, it's just a simple heart surgery." And the patient says to the doctor, "My name isn't David." And the doctor responds, "I know, I'm David." I hope that doesn't happen. No, I'm serious. I really hope that doesn't happen. In the book of Deuteronomy, there's a line that says, "Then Adonai, your God, will open your heart and the hearts of your offspring to love the eternal your God with all your heart and soul in order that you may live." Been thinking a lot about that verse recently. That Adonai, your God's going to open up your heart. More traditional translations are going to say circumcise your heart. Let's go with open. But that is what's going to be happening for me in about 10 days from now. My heart will be open, truly. And technically, there is a sort of cutting away of this heart in order that I can be healthier. It's kind of amazing. But when I really think about this text, it's about me and it's also about you. Because I find that so often we really live closed off. How it's hard to let people and ideas and other things that are important and of substance really to let them enter. Could be a different idea, could be generosity, it could be the communication that we are experiencing with others, it could be how we take care of other people. And I think we've been taught and trained to remain closed on so many ways that we put up these barriers, these fences. I like my new neighborhood because there's no fences. They're all just really low. It's not the big, tall fences, which some days I want to keep everybody out. And I know that's not always really good for us. We have been taught to be self-sufficient so much that I think it comes at a cost. That it has to be only about ourselves as individuals without looking at a greater whole. I know I was taught to be self-sufficient. It was a pull yourselves up by the bootstraps kind of mentality. So self-sufficient that I wouldn't really need anyone. I wouldn't depend on anyone. And I was told and trained that this is what a man should be, to be sure. We wouldn't want to be a burden. Don't take what you didn't earn. And it was bad advice, and it's bad training. And it's not helpful to us. us as individuals, us as a people, us as a society. I've been reading a book by Dr. William James Jennings. He's an associate professor of systematic theology and Africana studies at Yale Divinity School. And he teaches lots of things, but he has a drive to teach about belonging and how so much of that self-sufficiency, among other factors to be sure, inhibit us from really having a sense of belonging. I've been thinking a lot about belonging. I've been sharing it a lot in services, in these sermons, in these messages, and it changed dramatically when this pandemic began. Dr. Jennings teaches how the message of self-sufficiency can be antagonistic towards creating real belonging. Belonging is about being part of something, experiencing a homecoming. It is the opposite of I must do everything myself. There's a leadership teacher, Peter Block, that says the opposite of belonging is to feel isolated and always on the margin, as an outsider. But to belong is to know. Not to know data, but to know. An intimate kind of a knowing. And the only way you have that kind of a knowing is if there's a sharing. And I'm not very good at sharing. It's not my nature or my inclination. I have to force myself to do this kind of stuff. What kind of career coach did I have? To belong is to know that even in the middle of the night, I'm among friends. It says in the Psalms, they have mouths but cannot speak. They have eyes but they cannot see. They have ears but they cannot hear. They have noses but they cannot smell. Who is that? The psalmist describes someone who has the ability, the capacity to experience, but can't or won't. The person rejects personhood. They are unwilling to see humanity in all of our human siblings. In religious terms, I might call that blasphemy or idolatry, putting all of the power in something that's kind of phony, that doesn't give us any kind of energy. Is that a little harsh? I hope not. It's not meant to be, because I'm not talking about you again, I'm talking about me. I know that I have these feelings because I've been trained to be self-sufficient. And I'm a man. And I'm white. And I have all of these other things that have been given to me that I didn't earn, except that I have been trained to do everything on my own. And whenever I followed that guideline, it always let me down. And it would always leave me isolated, more isolated than I might have felt before. I think belonging might really be our longing to be, to experience being. Our longing to be, and our being, our belonging happens in community, in gatherings, in encounters, in togetherness. So that antidote to self-sufficiency of pulling yourself up by the bootstraps, that myth, the antidote to the desire to master everything and everyone, I think the antidote is vulnerability. So I'm standing here talking about my open heart. Talk about vulnerable. But vulnerability, it isn't weakness. It is living with your heart opening over and over and over again so that people and ideas and kindness and generosity can enter it. So if we like this idea of circumcising one's heart, it's because we don't want to become a Pharaoh. Remember Pharaoh, the one that brutalized our ancestors. Pharaoh is the one with a heart of stone. Nothing could enter. It couldn't penetrate it. That's not who we want to be. Vulnerability challenges self-sufficiency so that we can be open to taking care of one another. Not just those who some think are weak, but one another. Because friends, I've said it before and I'll say it again, every one of us has a special need at some point in their lives, in our lives. We all experience life quakes that shake everything around us. But as Rabbi David Wolpe teaches, it's true that circumcising our heart does open us to feel pain, but also joy and wonder and community and connection. Rooting that courage to open our hearts in the presence of the Holy One, being nestled in the bosom of God, gives us the strength, the courage, and the faith to risk the pain, to feel the pain. And I suggest to you, it's in our places where we are broken, that's where we grow the most. I'm going to do a lot of growing soon. And in that vulnerability, I know that there will be people that are going to watch over me and my family. And I hope that that doesn't happen just because I'm a rabbi, because we all need that from time to time. It has to go out into our community because we all have these life quakes. So, what's my message? I don't know. Somebody knows. My message, going back to Deuteronomy, that God's going to open up all of our hearts and the hearts of our offspring, the generations to come, so that we can experience life, all of life, every heart and every soul, in order that we live fully, gently, meaningfully, joyously, responsibly, and beautifully. So that's my hope for me. And then we can talk about your hopes too when I get back. I don't know when that's going to be, but that's all right.